You're listening to episode 3 of the Speak Easies.
Welcome to another episode of the Speak Easies. I'm your co-host, Polo Delos Santos.
I'm Cade Petrie.
And I'm Grady Thomson.
And today I wanted to talk about something that's been trending on social media lately, and that is the renaming of IHOP to IHOB.
What a
What
world.
do you guys think about it?
What a world, might I say. I think it's...
Yep.
I guess I just wasn't made for these... I guess I just wasn't made for these times, to quote the great Brian Wilson. I think it's just a marketing thing for a little bit. That's what I heard.
It's just too much for you?
It is.
It's too much for you, Grady?
It's like can you rely on anything now? Can you rely on anything nowadays?
Well, I mean, if we're gonna go that direction with it, from pancakes to
think-
nihilism.
Wait, let's just hold on. Before we get into that, let's stick to the pancakes. I just think, I don't know. It's like, just stick to what you're good at, man. It's like us. Like, we shouldn't be going off. Like, we're podcasters, okay? We're not. We don't make burgers.
Are we good though?
I know that's. I mean, I don't know. We're
like we can't jump into talking about Trump and his political regimes.
That's right.
We're just nonsense. We just talk about nothing. So you can't just talk about something after talking about nothing. And it's like, you can't just make burgers after you've been making pancakes, you know?
And honestly, I honestly think we have enough burger houses, burger restaurants in the world already. We didn't have that many pancake restaurants, you know? IHOP had that under their belt. And for them to just abandon that.
IHOP was special.
That's kind of sad.
And we know that.
Yeah.
I've never actually been to IHOP, on another note. So,
oh, really? Well,
I mean, yeah, I mean, Denny's is my go-to for breakfast, or Jack in the Box, but that's not really pancakes, you know? I'm just dropping all these brand names, hoping for a sponsor.
That's a shame.
I just feel like, what's funny is that, like, breakfast sometimes breakfast is just ridiculous. It's like, waffles? Are you kidding me? Whipped cream and bread? That's dessert, okay? That is like breakfast. I don't know. That's just a personal thing, I guess.
This is America.
It's like,
welcome to America.
I'm not gonna lie. I eat waffles. and pancakes, and I have a good time. But
for breakfast,
I don't know. I feel it seems, well, of course, everybody does.
Yeah,
but I just like.
Does, yeah.
But I feel ashamed calling that breakfast.
Yeah.
Ashamed? Is there something you'd rather have for breakfast that would make you feel better about yourself?
Well, yeah, something healthy.
A high protein, high fat breakfast. That's what
high fat
clinical psychologist. That's what clinical psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson recommends. He says,
all right.
The first thing he says to his patients is, eat a high protein, high fat breakfast. That'll help you create order in your life.
Create order? What if we just want energy? Carbs, right? Waffles and pancakes.
Fat is energy, right?
Well,
I don't.
It's quick.
The
it's
sun is energy. Sure. Why can't we just eat the sun? Why can we not photosynthesize?
Why can't we just photosynthesize?
Right.
I wish. Are you kidding me?
Listen,
but still have the ability to eat.
Here's what I think.
Have the whole pragmatism of eating the sun, but then be able to eat a waffle
pragmatism
and have a good time.
Here's the thing: IHOP should not have changed their name to International House of Burgers. They should have kept it IHOP, but changed it to International House of Photosynthesis, and announced the new product. If you eat this new special type of pancake, it just gives you the ability to photosynthesize for the next week. Listen, I think that would have been a better, marketing ploy than this burger thing, because at least it stays IHOP. Like, I get they want to do something new, try something new, but they can't change the brand with it too. And
but you know what I just thought of? Like, that's actually a really smart marketing technique. Like, IHOP just got tons of media. Sure, it may have been bad, but they just got a bunch of media coverage just by changing their name. Honestly, were any of you guys really thinking about IHOP really a couple weeks ago? No. It's just we don't think about it. It's a really smart marketing strategy, I think. It's whatever. Say what you want.
Any publicity is good publicity. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, that just brings up the question: why does it have to be burgers?
I
Like,
think they just wanted
is it just because of P and
I
B,
thought we
or
were all
probably.
we all thought it was breakfast when they changed it to IHOP.
I
Like I
I
thought it
thought
was
it.
gonna be breakfast.
Oh
that
yeah,
actually makes
I
Yeah,
perfect
thought they were
sense
gonna
then?
expand their menu,
they're
like
yeah.
like
They did, but
specialize it
not the
even
way we
more.
expected.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it's just you
it's a
know what?
crazy world.
A wise person once told me, people don't expect what they don't expect. And you know what? I really don't think anyone was expecting burgers. I think it's safe to say that. I mean, even now, do any of us really believe that they're making burgers?
Like,
Well,
did they even sell
of
burgers
course.
before?
I don't think so.
I
Or
I
maybe
mean
they
I've never
did
been
and
to
they just
IHOP, so
maybe they did and this is why they did it cuz like we just didn't know about it.
like I know Denny's has burgers, right? Because they're like a diner, you know. But
Denny's is
if you
just
name
iconic.
something an international house of pancakes, that's totally just a breakfast joint, you know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, I still don't go to Denny's and get a burger. I get that Grand Slam, but it's off topic.
Yeah,
Not
but I see
really
what you're
off
saying.
Why don't
topic.
they
There's
just
no
remove
topic.
the O and the P or O and the B and just have it
International
Internal
house.
house. They just sell
Yes.
all types of food, and then they fix their problem.
This
They
is
can
the
sell anything.
International House. We got
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
Welcome to the International House. May I
Want
take it?
some falafel?
International House actually just sounds like a Doctors Without Borders thing.
It
You
sounds
know?
to me like just
Why not?
like a continental breakfast sort of deal. You know,
Exactly. And that's all they have.
Continental breakfast, but it's every
well,
continent.
if someone specialized in that, honestly, if someone specialized in international cuisine, that might
I
be
think they have, but they haven't branded themselves as one. And
uh
IHOP has the opportunity to have it.
yes.
Hmm. I think
Uh,
people do specialize in international cuisine though, but they just,
Are
you
trash.
just have certain ethnic restaurants. Like, I go to a Chinese restaurant or an Indian restaurant. You know, it's just we don't have anything that's just all these cultures blended together. And this is America, so I would really expect that to have happened by now. And I'm kind of disappointed that
No,
we
but
haven't.
you know what? You say that. If I feel like if someone was to have a restaurant that was all cultures blended together, then it would still be an American restaurant because only Americans would do that.
And
that's
it would be
beautiful.
brilliant, and I would spend all my time there. You could literally go there for every meal, like let's say you want bratwurst for lunch, right? You're like, damn, that's some good bratwurst, but you leave, you go back to work, you go back to the restaurant, you're like, I really want some Indian food for dinner tonight. You can get that
But
at the
you
same
know what the
place.
problem is? As you expand your menu, you become less I don't know. I think the quality would lower as you
Becomes
increase.
overwhelming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not even overwhelming. It's just like, oh well, like yeah, they have all kinds of food, but it's not like they're not specializing in anything. And as we all know from economics, specialization is the way to go.
It's
I
true.
thought it was diversification. I don't know. I haven't taken econ in like 4
Well,
years,
you want to
so
diversify your portfolio, but
Well,
okay.
I'm talking
But
I
macroeconomics.
don't think we're talking about portfolio.
I'm talking
okay, macro. All right.
basically, essentially, not to go on an economics tangent because I'm sure that's not what our listeners want to hear. But essentially, even if a country,
Are you sure?
even if a country can make everything better than another nation, they should still specialize. And I'm not going to get into it right now, but just believe me. Just believe that I have facts behind me that I'm not
Just
saying.
just and I'm not going to say them. Imagine
And I
if you were
haven't.
to run a political campaign on that. You
Just believe
make
me.
these absurd like statements, and then just follow it up with just believe me. Like, I know I'm
Um,
not proving it, but just believe that I can prove it eventually.
Isn't that how it works now?
You know what? Isn't that is how it works?
I was waiting for
It's
that.
funny,
I was waiting
we
for that.
keep talking about these things being totally absurd and then not realizing that
Just
this is the world we live in.
just
Reality
look
is
outside.
stranger than fiction, boys.
That's right.
I'm crying now. This is horrible.
Another thing that I see with just having everything is you don't have the same ambience. You can't have
That's true.
all continents in the same restaurant, I don't think.
Well, I mean, it
Listen,
would be hard to pull off, but
It would be
there might be a
weird to
I
way.
pull
think it's
off
a
if you,
Jurassic
yeah.
Park kind of thing. We keep asking if we can. We haven't asked if we should. That's the thing.
Is
We
it
have this
ethical to?
Jurassic uh ethnic food house, right? That's all I'm saying.
That's the question. Should we do it? Feel free to answer that, guys. But we don't have the answer. Um, but yes, intercontinental food. You know, I let's go back to what Polo was saying. I think they could make a great ambience. I hate to disagree with you, but if they had an international theme, it's like, oh look, planes. It's like we're soaring over the Appalachians, and it's like, oh look, the London Eye. It's like, wow, I'm all over the place right now, and you know, that actually reminds me of something totally different, like just soaring over Earth, because this reminds me of the Space Force. Ladies and gentlemen,
Space Force.
we have a Space Force now.
Space Force. Oh boy.
What do you guys'
someone care
thoughts on
to
this?
enlighten me about that?
Well,
Grady?
essentially, okay. So I know a pretty decent amount of information about it, I think, but essentially, President Donald Trump is saying that we are going to create a sixth branch of the military, equivalent to that of the Air Force, and it is the Space Force. He is essentially saying that he wants to protect and defend American interests in space. I believe that's paraphrasing what he said, but
Okay.
that is the basis of it.
Out of curiosity, what would those interests be? Because I know there was a treaty signed by a bunch of nations that say that no one nation is allowed to claim territory in space.
Oh no, yeah, the UN
So
I
I'm
believe
just
has
confused as
space
to what that
law.
would be.
There's a branch called space law, a branch of law, and I believe like intergalactic colonization I believe is illegal according to the United Nations.
If I remember correctly, like outer space is just treated as international waters, right?
I believe you're correct.
So we would just make a space navy, really.
Yeah, I think it's sort of
I
like,
think that has a better ring to it than Space Force.
I don't know.
You
guys know about the
Space
Star Wars
Navy.
program?
Join the Space Navy.
By Reagan.
Yeah, Reagan. Yeah.
I think it would be something almost like that, because what he was doing was, at the time, it was the Cold War, so he was defending against Russia, I believe it was. Now we're not in a Cold War at the moment, but I think it would be something similar to that, just protecting the continental United States from like outer space. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe missiles that would launch out of the atmosphere, that sort of deal, something like that, or just technology that would see attacks coming. I don't really know. I am not an expert by no means.
But I feel like we already have something like that.
Yeah, I guess.
Don't we?
I don't know. Can I be honest? I just like the idea of a space military. I just think that's so cool. Like,
so aesthetic.
Like,
Grady just wants to be a space cowboy.
Yes. Yeah.
Just
a space
flying around.
A space ranger.
A space ranger.
Really enjoy being if I were to be in any branch of the military, I'd go Space Force easily.
There you go.
I just like the idea of it. What are you guys' thoughts on it, though? Do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea?
I just don't know why.
Having a space force, I feel like we wouldn't need a space force if we could do everything that you're saying we would need to do with it, like down here in the realm of Earth. I don't think we need to protect against like intercontinental ballistic missiles from space if we could do it down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are we gonna do up there? Just like
I think part of it's just
them,
capture them,
being like on the cutting edge of military technology, I believe. And what's interesting is
I just don't see a use for it, though.
I wonder if you think
I don't know. Defending American interests in space.
Well, that's a paraphrase. He made out of
that just doesn't make sense to me.
Think about this though. Essentially, if one point that I've heard is that this is if they use NASA as, of course, what they'll use to create their space technology, do you think that'll further science because NASA will have a presumably a better budget to invest in various technologies? I think that's an interesting
I don't know.
aspect of it.
What kind of technologies are they going to be investing in, though? Because it's a branch of the military. They're probably going to be lasers and stuff instead of bigger telescopes, you know?
I'm sorry. I know it's war. I know.
Well, you know, one thing I want to
like the seriousness of that, but it's just like
so cool.
I'm sorry, like it's like Star Wars, okay? But
that's all Grady wants. That's all he wants. He's a simple man. He just wants Star Wars
You
in
know what I
real
am
life.
waiting for? I want to see what the seal of the Space Force is going to be. Like, you know how there's
Oh yeah,
the
the
Navy's,
flag.
yeah, the flag. Yes,
Mm,
thank you, Bolo. The flag. I just want to
the
see it. I'm
flag.
waiting. I think it's gonna be cool because but
It's got to be cool, or else it's not going to live up to any of
that's
our
true.
expectations.
That's true.
Your enterprise is just whatever it is. It's just automatically doomed to fail unless you have a good logo. Like,
Polo, you
think
got
about
something
it.
to say about this?
You know, businesses, you have to
You
have
know,
a logo.
you
You know,
say
Sorry,
I
Cade.
don't know.
I didn't mean to interrupt
you
you.
say the space.
It's
You
fine.
say that the space force was kind of meant to like see how far we can push American technology, right? And maybe you're talking about NASA having an increased budget and seeing where they can go with that. But I think where most of technology is headed for today, just from my perspective, with any technology company, whether you're talking about a SpaceX, like Tesla, which is related to SpaceX, Boeing, which is also in the space industry, and NASA, they're all looking at artificial intelligence and furthering that. And that actually brings up something that one of our listeners have suggested.
That's right. This is actually a listener. Like Polo said, this is a listener suggested topic. Thank you to Lorenzo Scaturchio. Excuse us if we pronounced that incorrectly. Thanks for suggesting this to us. He told us to talk about artificial intelligence taking jobs. And just on a brief side note, if you have something you think we should talk about, tell us on the comments or through email or just Instagram. Get that information to us, and we'll put it on the list, and we'll see if we can talk about that. But artificial intelligence taking jobs. Let's talk about that. I think we all understand the basic premise of that. So let's get some thoughts off the bat of what you think. Is it happening? Is it a threat? Do we have to worry about it?
Well, going back to the Space Force, our last topic, I think artificial intelligence is going to be very heavily used in realms where human life could be at risk. You know, we don't want we're I think as a society we're less and less uh how do I say this? Less and less willing to put human lives at risk to save other humans.
And I
And
think artificial intelligence is really helpful in that regard because I mean,
yeah,
I suppose it's limited to a certain extent, but there are tasks that it would be able to complete in space that maybe even better than a human might. Because I don't know, I could be totally wrong here, but I think in high stress situations, while a human might have these errors and just be frantic, I imagine artificial intelligence would not really have to worry about that because it can just get the job done
exactly.
and get the job done well. It's interesting. I don't I
Exactly.
don't mean to make this political, but just a quick quote, paraphrase from one of the candidates for California governor. They had a debate and they were talking about this very topic of artificial intelligence. It was in regards to driving industries like Uber and taxis, and so
Yeah,
they're talking about how
like
to proceed
driverless
with that.
cars.
Yes, and so one of the candidates, John Cox, he said essentially that this is sort of the way the economy goes. There are advancements in technology, and there are always sort of these fears that people are going to lose jobs, and you know, it's going to be a problem. But what he thinks is that there's as the technology progresses, that creates more industries, ideally, and so this isn't something we should really worry about. What do you guys think on that? Do you think that's pretty good?
Uh, you know, I think I agree with we shouldn't worry about this. You see, like, I know history has shown us how the way people work changes. Like, even if we're just gonna go back to before the Industrial Revolution, history lesson here, guys. Most people were farmers. That was a thing, and then the Industrial Revolution happened. There were a bunch of machines. Then people all practically moved into a different sector of manufacturing because like even farming got better. You had better tools. You could farm more crops with less people, right? And now we're sort of reaching a point with this artificial intelligence thing that you can make more products with even less people. And we've seen that, you know, even in even in the past decades, most people in developed countries are more moving into service jobs. I think really, I think it's just part of that shift that's happening, and it's just
I
the
guess
way
I think
history
I
goes,
think
you
what
know.
the big scare is ultimately is, I mean, this happens a lot, like you said, with advancement, but it's going to take people's jobs. That's just how it goes as we advance technologically. But I don't know if this is different because I feel like artificial intelligence could take over so many jobs, from low skill jobs to even, like Polo was saying, like space technology, which is why I think this is different than other times that technology is advanced. I'm not saying it's different in a bad way. I just think that there is that difference, because I was thinking just right now, there is that industry that's going to be created, like, oh, someone's going to have to make the artificial intelligence, someone's going to have to repair it, but I'm thinking maybe even artificial intelligence could do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why it just seems like such a different advancement of technology.
Well, I was recently at a public lecture at Cal Poly Pomona, and a chief engineer from Boeing was there talking about artificial intelligence actually, and she was saying a question that was asked her was how will artificial intelligence take over like people's jobs? Because in the aerospace industry, for example, you have all these actual people building like planes and manufacturing, drones and missiles and planes and whatnot. And she said artificial intelligence won't. It might take over like a lot of building jobs, a significant amount, to be honest. But it can't take over all of them. There's still a lot of things that machines and computers can't do. Like, as far as I know, computers can't um, code themselves quite
Yeah,
yet. They,
hopefully
they
not.
they
That
can do
seems
a lot of
scary to
things,
me.
but
I'm not gonna lie.
Hopefully
Like,
not.
I'm not a
That
paranoid
would
guy
be
or anything.
yeah,
Well,
terrifying.
no, I am a
but
paranoid guy, but I'm not like a conspiracy theorist or anything. But that idea scares me.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
There's just a lot of things artificial intelligence and machines can't do that need human input, such as coding artificial intelligence
And
algorithms and
so for
whatnot.
me, here's how I look at
Yeah.
this, how it directly affects me. Like, I want to be a lawyer eventually, and part of me wonders, is that is are we ever going to get to a point where artificial intelligence will be able to do my job as a lawyer? Well, not yet, of course. Will we reach a point where that's going to do a lawyer's job better than a human would? Because you can just preload it with all of the various kinds of laws and teach you how to argue or whatever. I think I'm really oversimplifying artificial intelligence right now, but you guys see what I'm saying? Like, I wonder, what are the limits of where it
Yeah,
can go? I know I'm certain that we can adapt it to teach. We can have artificial intelligence teach people. I don't think we're at a point where we can do that on a mass scale, but what are your thoughts?
Well, see, personally for me, I I'm not sure artificial intelligence will ever be able to truly think, you know? It doesn't have consciousness. It's just like the deep blue, the chess computer, right? It just would look at the move that its opponent made and then it would calculate billions of probabilities, you know, and then choose the best move from that. But that's not thinking creatively, right? I think we still need
But see,
people to
that's when
do
I
that, you know?
oh
For
well,
law,
I see what
especially
you
the
just said.
argument, you
That
know?
seems like a perfect, like, imagine if a lawyer was able to look at all the laws and then probability and be able to do all that in like a split second. That would be incredible. That'd be like probably one of the best layers. I know there is a
You know, the way it's looking right now, he would be sacrificing creative thinking, you know?
oh yeah, and creativity is obviously
Oh, one thing I have to say about what Cade said is I don't think it's like, if we're talking about just pure just lawyers for right
yeah.
now. I don't think it's well. I'm not going to be a lawyer, nor do I want to. I'm not a poli
Oof.
sci major, but you guys can add to this. But I don't think artificial intelligence is just something that's purely logical, right? But if you're going to be a lawyer, I think there's a certain level of empathy that you need to have
Mm.
if you're going to deal with clients and whatnot. And artificial intelligence can't quite do that well, and I think that's where it fails a bit.
And I wonder, I sort of wonder. This is getting really, like, this is about to be really deep what I'm about to say, but like, how much
Okay.
of human behavior, including creativity, is programmable? You know, can we program? I imagine we can program artificial intelligence to create beautiful works of art. Can it do that? I think eventually we might be at a point where it might be able to do that in a very meticulous, calculated way. But
Mm.
is that still creativity? Is it still creativity if it's based off of an algorithm? I don't know. I don't know how to answer this question. And I don't know if we're ever going to, like, I really don't know a lot about artificial intelligence. So I could be totally wrong right now. But if it is able to do that, do we still consider that creativity?
Now, I actually saw a YouTube video about it was a guy trying to create a machine learning algorithm to listen to works of art such as a Bach and like jazz pieces and make a like piano MIDI file like work of art, you know, like music. And you'd be very surprised at what it was able to do in 3 days. So it was given 3 days to like analyze all this music and try to learn, right? It wasn't music, maybe, to some people, but you could tell there was chords and harmonies that it was able to think of itself. So imagine what it could do in maybe a
I was just
week
about to say, I mean,
or a month.
3 days, that's nothing. And that's why I'm wondering, because basically you just sort of confirmed that we do have a point where we can um, have a creative AI, if we consider that creativity. Uh, and that's my question. Do you guys consider it creativity if it is based off of an algorithm? And I don't have an answer at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Creativity if it's based on the I don't know. Define algorithm, because
Let's
I
let's
feel
find
like
a definition of creativity. Huh?
yeah, let's find a definition of both of those.
Well,
I feel like though, shoot, man, where was I going? It mm, if if we could classify
Okay. So
certain things as certain things in human experience as algorithms, you know,
look at this.
uh,
According, I just
then I
typed
don't
this up
know.
and searched the definition of creativity. It says the use of the imagination or original ideas, especially in the production of an artistic work. So I guess, is it original? If it is based off, like, was Polo's description? He was saying that it was based off of listening to 3 days of all kinds of artwork. Is that original at that point? Or is it the same as being human? Because we take inspiration from already created works of art. So is it the same?
Mhm. Oh, okay, so here's what I found. The definition of algorithm, a process or set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations. So, uh, I'm not if the machine is given a problem and the problem is to create a work of art, then I guess an algorithm could be creative, but it's a set of
I was
rules,
just
you
about to.
know? It has limitations.
So consider this. You said set of rules. So this is
Yes, or
just a
process.
thought here. So in music, I don't know if this is the same in like painting or other mediums of art, but in music there's music theory, and there are these rules for chords and chord progressions and all kinds of things of how you should create a song. And there are some of the greatest composers ever, like Mozart. He learned these rules, of course, and part of that of being able to be a great composer was him learning the rules and then him breaking them, and he made all these great
Yeah,
works.
I was about to
And
say.
so, was breaking the rules what was original? Of course, that was sorry, that was definitely original. And so, I mean, to a certain extent, Mozart, for example, was following an algorithm in his formative years as a composer. Would you agree?
I mean, if following a
yeah.
process, yes, but then he broke it, and that was the creative thing, I guess. Because like even not Mozart. That shoot the guy who wrote Rite of Spring, the Rite of Spring. Stravinsky. I'll have to look it up later. I think it's Stravinsky, but it was one of like the like I know when it first came out, it was like one of the worst things that people had ever heard, and they like walked out of the music hall or the theater or something. But now we look at it, and it's considered this beautiful work of art, and he was creative in how he broke the rules again, like what you were saying. But if I guess if we could program an AI to break the rules, then it would be creative. But we're still programming it. The Now the set of rules has changed in that your rules are that you must break the rules over here. You know?
And so, does the credit go to the AI or the programmer for the hypothetical works of art?
Now it's
No,
like
that's a hard
asking,
question.
is this painting the result of the man who manufactured? the paintbrush or the canvas or the man who taught
Or
the
the
painter, and then I guess we could, if by that logic we could trace all works of art down to one person and they're responsible
And
for
so
all
since we
art.
do that with people, so like Vincent van Gogh, random example, he created all these works of art. I'm not too familiar with where he learned it, but obviously to create these great works of art, he had to learn it. And we credit Vincent van Gogh, of course, with the Starry Night and all these great works of art. And so with humans, we have no problem with crediting people's work directly to who made it. But suddenly with AI, it's like, oh, that's kind of different. That's a different way of looking at it for some reason. And that seems interesting to me from a creative standpoint. And it seems weird to credit a machine as well.
Yeah, like you can credit when people build machines that can manufacture things, we still credit the person with building the machine that can build something. Like Ford invented the assembly line, right? And we credit Ford with that. We don't credit the assembly line for all the cars that it
And
produced.
all the changes they made in history.
You're right.
Yes.
And that's an interesting point to bring up because I feel so conflicted as to who I would credit for AI, you know? And I,
Polo, do you have something to say? You've been a little silent. Sorry, Grady, but
Well, I was just gonna say, like, you guys before mentioned something about Bo Stravinsky, writing,
yeah,
what is it, The Rite of Spring, and people hating it, but then learning to love it, I guess, if I interpret that correctly. But that then brings up the point. I think it's only art if people consider it art. If people consider something created by machine as a machine created, like,
object.
if it's a painting, for example, an image, yeah, an object, well, then it's not art, it's just an image. So I think it's ultimately up to humans to decide whether it's art, whether it's from the machine or from the person who coded or created the machine.
Or whether it's
You know,
just
I think
not
it's just
that's an
up to
beautiful.
interesting
us.
point to make. So ultimately, you're saying is it doesn't matter how it's made; it takes a human to give it meaning.
Exactly. And that goes back to the point of artificial intelligence taking jobs, I think. It's up to humans to decide what they do. It's up to humans to decide whether we're going to let them take their jobs. It's all ultimately
Yeah,
all up to us.
that's interesting. You know,
Interesting. It. Sorry.
no, I'm,
Go
I
ahead.
was, but just finish what you're going to say, please.
It's sorry. It brings up a point. Is art ever truly created by an artist, or is it created by the audience, the person who receives the art? There's plenty of statues out there that I've seen and paintings out there that I've seen that I don't consider art, but that other people will consider art. So, and what even
Well,
is art at
well,
this
we
point?
talked about Van Gogh earlier, and I know personally, I know that in his lifetime, I believe he sold one painting over the course of his entire lifetime, and I know,
That's rough.
and look at after his death, we look at him as one of the greatest artists of all time, and he's undoubtedly created one of the most iconic works of art, and so I think a lot of people at the time of his career just thought that's not art, that's just trash, man, and that's an interesting point because then suddenly generations later we're like, whoa, this is the pinnacle, man. Or so many people think the Starry Night. I know personally, I think the Starry Night's like that's amazing, how visionary. But you asked what is art, and that is a heavy question to answer.
That is a heavy question. Are we really ready for
I
that at
think
this
we just
point?
had the heavy conversation, and I want to break it up with a funny story, and maybe we can go back after this if we want to. But I just remember this. You know that um, when Jimi Hendrix was starting up, he was gonna open for, or excuse me, I don't know if he was opening, but anyway, there was this jazz festival in the 1960s. It must have been, and of course, it was like smooth jazz, so it was quiet, it was calm. All of a sudden, Jimi Hendrix comes out, and of course, like this audience is like, oh, we like jazz, we don't like this crazy music, and he comes out, turns the stereos like all the way up. Of course, it's Jimi Hendrix. He plays this crazy guitar, and like the audience is just horrified. um, it's just I don't know. I don't know why that reminded me of that, but I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wanted to break up that we were getting we were getting pretty dark right over there. Not dark, but just
It's the interpretation of art. What do people consider art? Because those people didn't consider it art. You have to find an audience, I
and how would
suppose.
you know what's interesting? The question I don't think any of us will have the answer to this. I don't know, but how would a machine classify art? Of course, it would be by an algorithm created by a person, right? But how would a
Yeah,
machine?
and
How
then
would
can it truly creatively understand something? If it just if like you're running through an algorithm, like it looks at a piece of art, runs through this algorithm, checks off these things like, oh, look, count the colors in the painting, see if you can identify the objects, see the positioning of them, and then you get like this score or something, and then that's how much of an art this thing is. It's not really like I guess it's too objective, is what I'm trying to say. And what we were talking about earlier is that art isn't really objective because so much of what people consider great, some other people don't, right?
exactly?
You know, I wanted to bring up one thing about what you said though. If you think about it, if you think about like child development, you know, if you go back to like the days of being a baby, how you interpret art is from your parents, you know? And if you think about it, we're very much like computers as well. We have parents and family members that kind of train you to interpret art and
They
teach you
program you
this is
basically.
yeah, this is art, this is not. This looks nice, this does not, you know?
So
And
your formative years create that art algorithm
yeah,
is what you're saying.
yes,
And if you're given a lot of freedom to decide things for your own, then that the algorithm that your parents create for you is that you get to create your own algorithm. I don't
exactly.
know.
We are all basically big computers, you know. We have logic gates in our brains and whatnot. So that this just gets into a deeper and deeper hole that I no longer can solve. So you guys can take over from here.
Yeah, I think we we went really deep into the void in that one. Um, I we are I'm proud of you guys. We actually had a serious conversation for once.
Yeah, I
We
can't
did it.
believe it. Last week we were talking about the Beach Boys and how Brian Wilson was a political prophet, and now we're sitting here about the definition of art and are human beings really computers? What is creativity?
What is life?
I think what is life? What is life, Polo? I think our time's almost up, guys. I think I'm gonna have to bring it bring it to a close here. Although unfortunately we didn't really get to the conclusion and the answers of life's deep questions. Can't believe we started out at the International House of Burgers and we ended up where we did. But
Thank you again for Lorenzo Scaturchio for suggesting that topic. Clearly,
thank you
it's good.
to Lorenzo the Magnificent, as he will now be known.
Hope we hear more from you and the rest of our listeners or viewers.
Make sure you guys are commenting, liking those YouTube videos, DMing us on Instagram, checking out our podcast on iTunes. We're going to be on iTunes, YouTube, and Podbean. We took a deeper turn with this episode than we usually do, but that's about it, guys. We'll see you next week.